The General's Gambit, Chapter 1, The Tides of War. In the heart of the Highlands, where the mist never fully lifts, the war between the verdant elves of Elarion and the obsidian elves of Nocturna raged on. For centuries, these two mighty empires clashed, each blow shaking the very foundation of the world. Between them lay the fragile nation of Arctia, a human land constantly trampled under the weight of elven boots and the roar of their war machines. General Elias Drake, a young but seasoned commander of Arctia, stood on the balcony of the citadel, watching the sun rise over a battlefield that had yet to see today's bloodshed. His nation had always sought neutrality. However, neutrality often meant suffering the consequences of both sides. Today, Elias resolved to change that. The citadel stood as a lone bastion of hope. It was surrounded by verdant hills and the distant mountains that separated Arctia from its warring neighbors. Elias's gaze was steady, his expression set in a mask of determination. Behind him, the bustling sounds of the citadel's early morning routine filled the air. Soldiers drilled in the courtyard below, blacksmiths hammered steel into weapons, and messengers rushed out delivering orders and updates. Elias turned to his advisor, Captain Leora Valen, a woman of keen intellect and unwavering loyalty. "We can't remain in the shadows any longer, Leora. If we don't take a stand, we'll be ground to dust." Leora nodded, her eyes reflecting the same determination. "Indeed, we've waited too long, General. It's time to make our move." The war had taken its toll on Arctia. Fields once lush with crops now lay fallow, villages were deserted, and the people were weary. The constant threat of elven incursions left the population in a state of perpetual fear. Arctia's neutrality was a tenuous thread, one that Elias intended to strengthen with a bold new strategy. Chapter 2, A Glimmer of Hope. The general's path led him to an ancient ruins of Antares, a place whispered about in legends as the resting place of forgotten technology. Accompanied by a small band of loyal soldiers, Elias ventured deep into the heart of the ruins, guided by an old map and tales of a powerful weapon lost to time. The deeper they went, the more the ruins revealed remnants of a past where technology and magic intertwined seamlessly. The journey to Antares was perilous, to say the least. The group traversed dense forest, crossed treacherous rivers, and scaled rocky cliffs. Each step brought them closer to their goal, but also deeper into the unknown. The ruins themselves were a labyrinth of crumbling stone and rusted metal, filled with traps and dangers. The soldiers moved cautiously, their every step echoing through the silent corridors. As they delved deeper, they uncovered ancient inscriptions and remnants of arcane machinery, hinting at a civilization that had once thrived on the fusion of magic and technology. In the heart of the ruins, they found it. A colossal dormant war machine, a relic of a bygone era. Covered in rust but intact, it was a hybrid of steam and sorcery, unlike anything Elias had ever seen. With the help of Arctia's finest engineers and mages, Elias sought to awaken this ancient weapon, hoping it would be the key to changing his nation's fate. Chapter 3, Awakening the Beast. The process of reviving the war machine was arduous. It required rare metals, enchanted crystals, and the combined knowledge of both science and magic. Days turned to weeks, and tensions grew as rumors of Arctia's secret spread. Both Elarion and Nocturna sent spies, hoping to discover what Elias was planning. Arctia's capital buzzed with a mix of excitement and anxiety. The engineers worked tirelessly, deciphering the complex mechanisms of the war machine. The mages channeled their powers, infusing the ancient runes with new energy. As the project progressed, Elias found himself torn between his duties as a general and the responsibilities of leading such a monumental effort. The engineers, led by the brilliant inventor Marcellus Quinn, faced countless challenges. Ancient components had to be carefully removed and replaced, arcane circuits reconnected, and the entire machine recalibrated to function with modern technologies. Marcellus often worked late into the night, his workshop filled with the sound of clanking metal and hissing steam. Meanwhile, the mages, under the guidance of Archmage Seraphine Alaric, performed intricate rituals to restore the war machine's magical core. They chanted incantations, inscribed runes, and infused the machine with elemental energies. Seraphine, a master of both elemental and arcane magic, coordinated the efforts, ensuring that the balance between steam and sorcery was maintained. Despite the growing pressure, Elias remained resolute. He personally oversaw every aspect of the project, his determination inspiring his people. Finally, after countless sleepless nights and near-fatal setbacks, the machine roared to life, steam billowing from its joints and arcane symbols glowing with renewed power. Chapter 4. The First Strike. With the war machine now operational, Elias knew he had to make a decisive move. He led the strike force into a contested territory where the armies of Velaryon and Nocturna were locked in yet another brutal confrontation. As the human war machine appeared on the battlefield, both elven factions hesitated, unsure of this new threat. Elias commanded the machine with precision, its devastating power turning the tide of battle. The elves, unprepared for such an onslaught, retreated, giving Arctia its first significant victory in centuries. The success emboldened the human nation, rallying their spirits and giving them a glimpse of a future free from elven oppression. The battlefield was a chaotic scene of smoke and fire. The war machine's cannons blasted through enemy lines while its mechanical limbs crushed obstacles in its path. Elias, standing atop the machine, directed its movements with a combination of hand signals and shouted commands. His soldiers fought with renewed vigor, inspired by the overwhelming power of their newfound weapon. In the aftermath of the battle, Elias and his soldiers tended to the wounded and assessed the damage. The war machine, though victorious, had sustained some damage. Elias knew that each use would take a toll, and maintaining the machine would be just as challenging as wielding it in battle. The victory had far-reaching consequences. Word of Arctia's triumph spread quickly, and other human nations, long oppressed by the elven empires, began to see a glimmer of hope. Alliances were proposed and trade routes reopened, as people dared to dream of a future where humans could stand on equal footing with the elves. Chapter 5. The Cost of Power. Victory came at a price. The use of such a powerful weapon drew the ire of both elven empires. They saw the war machine as an abomination, a threat to the natural order of their world. Velaryon and Nocturna, bitter enemies for so long, formed an uneasy truce with one goal: to destroy the human weapon and reclaim their dominance. Elias found himself at the center of a storm. His own people, while grateful for the victory, grew fearful of the repercussions. The war machine, once a symbol of hope, became a symbol of the escalating conflict. Internal divisions surfaced, with some advocating for diplomacy and the others for total war. The political landscape within Arctia itself shifted as well. Noble families and influential merchants debated the future of the nation, their arguments growing more heated with each passing day. Elias, once a unifying figure, now found himself navigating a complex web of alliances and rivalries. The capital became a hotbed of intrigue. Spies from both elven empires infiltrated the city, spreading rumors and sowing discords. The council meetings, once focused on rebuilding and defense, now centered on the moral and ethical implications of using such a powerful weapon. Religious leaders condemned the war machine, calling it an affront to the gods, while scholars debated its historical significance and potential uses. Chapter 6. Crossroads. As the combined elven forces marched towards Arctia, Elias faced his greatest challenge. He knew that using the war machine again would lead to unimaginable destruction, not just for his enemies, but for his own people. He called a council of war, bringing together leaders from all factions within Arctia to decide their next move. Debates raged through the night. Some argued for surrender, believing that survival was better than annihilation. Others, emboldened by their recent victories, pushed for a final, decisive battle. Elias listened to every voice, weighing the potential outcomes. Captain Leora Valen, his trusted advisor, was among the most vocal. "We can't afford to back down now. We've come too far to turn back." "But at what cost, Leora?" Elias countered. "If we unleash the machine again, we risk destroying everything we're trying to protect." The council's discussions continued into the early hours, with no clear consensus in sight. Representatives from every corner of Arctia spoke, each with their own perspectives and fears. Farmers worried about their land, merchants about their trade, and soldiers about their families. The weight of their concerns pressed heavily on Elias's shoulders. In a moment of silence, Archmage Seraphine Alaric spoke up. "There may be another way," she said, her voice calm and measured. "We could use the war machine not as a weapon of destruction, but as a tool of negotiation. Show the elves we possess the power to defend ourselves, but offer them a chance for peace." The idea sparked a new wave of discussion. Some were skeptical, but others saw the potential. Elias pondered the suggestion, recognizing the wisdom in Seraphine's words. Chapter 7. The Final Gambit. In the end, Elias made his choice. He led his forces to a narrow pass where the terrain could neutralize the elven numerical advantage. The war machine, now more symbol than weapon, was placed at the heart of their defenses. As dawn broke, the elven armies appeared, their banners fluttering in the wind. The battle that followed was fierce and unforgiving. The war machine unleashed its fury, but Elias used it sparingly, aware of its limits and the potential fallout. His strategy relied on human ingenuity, exploiting the terrain and the element of surprise. The elves, though formidable, were unprepared for such unconventional tactics. Arctia's forces fought with unmatched tenacity, driven by the hope that this battle could finally end their suffering. The war machine, though a powerful tool, was not the sole focus of their efforts. Elias had trained his soldiers to be adaptable, using guerrilla tactics and leveraging their knowledge of the terrain to outmaneuver the enemy. The narrow pass became a crucible of conflict. The elven armies, confident in their numbers, advanced with relentless force. But the humans, fortified by the war machine and their strategic positioning, held their ground. The sound of battle echoed through the mountains, a symphony of clashing swords, roaring cannons, and the cries of the wounded. As the day wore on, Elias implemented a daring plan. He ordered a feigned retreat, drawing the elven forces deeper into the pass. Once the elves were fully committed, the war machine sprang into action, cutting off their escape and turning the tide of the battle. The elves, caught off guard and surrounded, were forced to surrender or face annihilation. Chapter 8. The Aftermath. As the dust settled, the battlefield was a testament to the horrors of war. Both elven armies were shattered, their leaders either slain or captured. Arctia had won, but the victory felt hollow. The land was scarred and the people weary. Elias stood among the ruins contemplating the cost of his decisions. In the distance, the war machine lay dormant once more, a relic of a past that had refused to stay buried. The future, however, was uncertain. Would they rebuild and seek peace? Or would the cycle of conflict continue? The choices made in the coming days would shape the destiny of all nations. The council reconvened to discuss the terms of the ceasefire. Representatives from Ilarion and Nocturna, humbled by their defeat, attended the negotiations. The discussions were tense, with each side seeking to secure the best possible outcome for their people. Elias played a pivotal role in this, striving to balance the demands of the elven empires with the needs of his own nation. The elven delegates, though defeated, maintained their proud demeanor. They demanded reparations and guarantees of safety for their people. Elias, mindful of the delicate balance of power, negotiated carefully, offering terms that would promote stability rather than future enmity. Chapter 9. Echoes of the Past. With the immediate threat of the elven retaliation diminished, Elias turned his attentions to the deeper mysteries of the war machine. He commissioned scholars and historians to study the ancient texts and relics found within the ruins of Antares, hoping to one day uncover more about the civilization that had created such a powerful device. The scholars' findings were both enlightening and troubling. They discovered that the war machine was part of a larger network of ancient technologies, each with the potential to reshape the world. The texts spoke of a time when humans, elves, and other races had coexisted in a delicate balance, only to be torn apart by their own ambitions. Elias pondered these revelations, realizing that the key to a lasting peace might lie in understanding the past. He began to see the war machine not just as a weapon, but as a symbol of the potential for unity and cooperation between different peoples. The ruins of Antares revealed other secrets long buried. Hidden chambers contained artifacts and manuscripts that hinted at the technological and magical prowess of this ancient civilization. The scholars meticulously catalogued their discoveries, piecing together a picture of a world where steam and sorcery were seamlessly integrated. Chapter 10: Fragile Peace. As Arctia began to rebuild, Elias worked tirelessly to foster a fragile peace. He reached out to leaders within Elarion and Nocturna, seeking common ground and mutual understanding. These efforts were met with mixed reactions. Some were receptive to the idea of peace, while others remained wary and distrustful. Elias focused on strengthening Arctia's internal stability. He implemented reforms to address the grievances of the common people and to ensure that the sacrifices made during the war were not in vain. The war machine was dismantled and studied, its components repurposed for peaceful applications. Despite these efforts, though, tensions remained high. Skirmishes occasionally broke out along the borders, and old wounds were slow to heal. Elias knew that true peace would take time, and that the road ahead would be fraught with challenges. The process of dismantling the war machine was both symbolic and practical. Engineers carefully removed its components, repurposing the steam engines and magical cores for infrastructure projects. The machine's outer shell was melted down and reforged into tools and building materials, a testament to Arctia's commitment to a new future. Chapter 11: A New Dawn. Years passed and the memory of the Great War began to fade. Arctia flourished under Elias's leadership, becoming a beacon of hope and resilience in a world still recovering from the scars of conflict. The nation became a hub of innovation, blending ancient technologies with new ideas to create a brighter future. Elias, now older and wiser, continued to work towards a lasting peace. He established alliances with neighboring kingdoms and promoted cultural exchanges to foster understanding and cooperation. The legacy of the war machine lived on, not as a weapon of destruction, but as a reminder of the potential for progress and unity. As the sun rose over the highlands, Elias stood on the balcony of the citadel once more, reflecting on the journey that had brought him here. The future was still uncertain, but for the first time in centuries, there was hope. The world had changed, and with it, the possibility of a new dawn. If you've enjoyed this story and would like to hear some more, do let us know in the comments below. And also, don't forget to like and subscribe. It helps us a lot. Thanks.